Hello and welcome to the Geekcentric podcast. My name is Nate, and welcome to our special Behind the Geeks episode, where we got the opportunity to interview Alan Silvestri and Glen Ballard, composer and writer for Disney's live-action Pinocchio. If you're joining us for the first time, we are Geekcentric, a podcast focusing on the world of movies, TV shows, toys, gaming, collectibles, and all things geek-centric. Joining me for this episode is my real boy, Justin. How you doing, Justin?
There ain't no strings on me, bro. Let me tell you. I'm a real boy today.
You're a
How
real
are
boy.
You?
Your hinges, you got your hinges greased up, looking good.
I'm ready to rock, bro.
Ready to rock, man. Yeah. As I mentioned, we had the opportunity to interview the great Alan Silvestri, which is absolutely insane to me that we interviewed the guy that's made some of the most incredible music that we've heard throughout all the geeky things we love. And of course, his writing partner and the kind of someone he's worked with quite a bit, Glen Ballard. And you even called that out in the interview, I noticed, where you kind of talked about their working relationship.
Yeah, no, this was another fantastic interview. Different for me. I've never really talked to composers, and I think that kind of shows in terms of the kind of questions that I asked. I did really want to kind of get into the sort of collaboration and how things came about, very much in the creative process. So I think that was a big highlight from this conversation. But yeah, like a huge thanks to Disney yet again for allowing us the opportunity to sit down with these two, because they're very passionate about the musical component that can help tell the story, and I think the interview really does showcase that, and it was tons of fun. It was just tons of fun to chat with them.
Absolutely. And I think you're gonna kind of get a sense for just how long these two guys have been in this industry, and just how they're freaking legends. Before we get to the interview, I did want to mention our review for Disney's Pinocchio is out right now on podcast services, so definitely please feel free to check that out. Not to spoil the review, but I wasn't the hottest on the film itself. I will say that the two gentlemen that we got a chance to interview, I think, did the most for the movie in what they added and what they were able to kind of give to the narrative of Pinocchio. And yeah, I think it's worth watching at least the moments that they added, the songs that they added, because they are honestly really, really fantastic and gave a lot to the Pinocchio story. All right, well, listen, before my nose grows any further, let's get to this interview. Here's our interview with Alan Silvestri and Glen Ballard.
Hi, Alan. Hi, Glen. How are you?
We're good.
We're good. My name's Justin. Yeah, my name's Justin. I'm from the Geekcentric podcast. I'm so excited to talk to you guys about this movie and the work that you've done with it, the new music, and actually, I just would love to start our conversation with getting both of your takes on the power of Disney songs and why they might resonate so much with audiences.
Disney clearly has a history of integrating song and story. They do it better than anyone. Obviously, it's their brand, really. And there's just so many movies that they've made that if you took the songs away from them, they wouldn't be so good. So
right.
They've always understood, and Walt Disney himself honored great songwriting and made sure that it was part of the storytelling. And it's one of the hardest things to do in film, is to use a song to help tell a story, but Disney knows how to do it. So we're just honored to be part of that whole kind of sensibility.
I absolutely love that, because I totally agree. I think the sentiment of it playing such a huge part in the storytelling piece is 100% true. Clearly this isn't your first time working together, working on Polar Express with Robert Zemeckis as well, and plus the Back to the Future musical, which is being celebrated as being a real great success. I wanted to know, what was it about this project that made you guys want to work on it together?
Well, it was a bit daunting, the thought of taking one of these most famous classic Disney films and daring, if you will, to retell it, write new songs. But, it began with Robert Zemeckis's vision of the film. And he found a very new, fresh, inspiring way to tell this story. And I think that's part of what inspired Glenn and I to, to dare put new words, new notes to Pinocchio.
Yeah.
And it was great fun and challenging.
Absolutely. I'll have a follow-up question to that in a sec, but I want to stick with this idea of storytelling. And actually this question is for you, Glenn. Like, this movie feels very much, as Alan referenced, a retelling of the original film from the 1940s. Yet the new songs that you've added seem to give more depth to the overall narrative. Specifically, like, I love the song with Geppetto, when he was here with me, performed by Tom Hanks towards the beginning of the movie. I was wondering, how did you guys decide where to place these songs and how, without necessarily steering too far from the story, but just adding to it?
It was decided by Robert Zemeckis. It was already
Right.
built into the original script. He made it really easy for us. He said, here's that song, here's this song, here's this song. It was like, are you kidding? He just laid it out for us in the very first script. And so, what Robert did on this is he deepened the characters that you know from the original movie, but
yes,
each one of the characters now in a kind of modern way, they're more real to you. Actually, even Pinocchio is more real, because it's a fully realized kind of visual and kind of emotional experience, and it's there's fantasy, but it's like there's a deep message in all of it.
Absolutely. And I think that's, with the other original song, I Will Always Dance, I love that moment and how much it deepens Pinocchio's character and makes him feel much more real and connected because he's surrounded by people he can't trust. So bravo on that. Alan, going back to your original reference, you've created themes for some of the most iconic characters in movies like Back to the Future, Predator, Captain America, and of course, the Avengers, because us at Geekcentric, we're a huge fan of that MCU content. I was wondering, coming into this project with such strong themes in place, how did you find, balancing paying respect while making it your own?
Well, the classic Disney songs that are in the film were always going to be in the film and were going to be where they are in the film. And so we had these as kind of touchstones throughout the film. But beyond that, there was this thought that this is a fresh, inspired retelling, but it needed to be its own world, its own space. And that's where you just have to follow Mr. Zemeckis as he works through the story. And you will find your way. Just follow him.
Yeah, I love that it's very much a collaboration between all parties involved to really kind of find the nuance of how to tell that story and where these songs need to kind of hit. So I love that that's very much part of the working relationship in this. I guess it goes without saying, given the strong relationship that you guys both have working with him and just the sort of connectivity. I think it really shows because, again, everything was just layered in very intelligently to just kind of modernize it, but yet still pay homage to what stays true to the Pinocchio story. My final question here is a fun one. If you guys could work on a new score or music for another live action adaptation within the Disney world that hasn't already been done, yeah, what would that be?
Wow. I think we need to take a meeting on that one and get back to you. Which one would you like us to do?
Oh, so that's a great question too. I'm not prepared, Alan, for this sort of question. But I think I very much look forward to hearing what you guys do next because I think again, you guys are an amazing combo and the storytellers through music, and I love it. I love it so much.
Fantastic.
So thank you so much.
All right,
thank you so much for taking the time.
Pleasure to talk to you. All right,
Justin, a great interview, man. Thank you.
Thanks, Glenn. Thank you. That means a lot. Have a good one, guys.
And we're back, dude. I think I agree with Glenn, man. That was a great interview, dude.
Okay, so truth be told, I was incredibly nervous for this, just because I haven't really interviewed composers, and I don't necessarily want to sound silly asking some of the questions.
Yeah.
Which I think in some ways these questions were very surface level, but they gave me some really great responses. I was actually really surprised. So at the end there, Glenn acknowledged that it was a fun interview. I appreciate that, because it was just at least gratifying to know that my nerves, there was nothing to be worried about.
And Alan Silvestri chuckling at the name of our podcast. I'm like, dude, Alan Silvestri likes our podcast.
I think he's a geek,
dude.
man.
He's
I
a
think
geek.
he's a geek.
Absolutely.
I think he's a geek. The only
With
other,
everything he's
the
worked
other
on.
person in the interviews that has would reference the word geek throughout was Angus MacLean.
Yes.
From Lightyear, the director
He's
of
a big
Lightyear.
geek,
He
too.
referenced himself as a geek
Yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff like that. So I love that we can kind of tap into that a little bit.
Yeah,
So
Well-
it was really cool. This was really great to kind of learn a little bit more about their involvement and what they added and the sort of approach that they had to working with Zemeckis, who clearly mapped out much of what he wanted to hear from the music side. It seems like I think Zemeckis is a bit of a musical guy.
I think, well, I definitely think so. And I think they've worked together for so long that it's just probably everything flows super easily. But I did think that, hearing Glen Ballard having the guts to call out the fact that, like there's so many Disney movies that if you took the music out of them, they wouldn't be as memorable. And I really dig that. And I think that's both, that's a true fact. I think some people could see that as a bit of a slight to their favorite Disney movie, but it's true because it's been that way since the beginning. And he calls out the fact that Walt Disney has always seen, using music to tell a story. That's always been at the forefront of those projects. And it's, I think there's so many creators out there who vie for the Disney music. Like, okay, let's do it, but let's make it like a Disney musical. And the fact that that's part of the lingo is so dope. I think that's fantastic. And I think, I think it's crazy that Alan Silvestri found it daunting to approach this movie. And I know we talk about it all the time, but like, I think of Alan Silvestri as a legend in the composing world because he is. But to hear that even he found this challenging,
he had nerves about it.
It was dope.
Yeah,
it was really nice to hear.
Yeah. It actually it again we as we do these interviews, we always come back to this these conversations in many ways humanize these individuals because we put them on this pedestal. We think that they don't have these sort of trepidations or anxiousness, but they do. And they in their own way, but they're able to still deliver. And I think that, as you said before the interview, I think the music is 100% the highlight for me from Pinocchio, in that it does try to actually do something different, while still staying true to what makes Pinocchio special. That's no shade at Zemeckis, because I think masterfully, with his visual effects background and his attention to incorporating those elements and weaving them throughout the story, he found the way to do that with Pinocchio. Because again, it is a retelling, and I think that very much what Disney is doing with these live action movies is they are retelling these stories for a new generation and updated. But I do agree that I think they could have pushed it a little bit more and make this feel entirely different from the original 1940. That's my pseudo review of this movie, because unfortunately I didn't.
You didn't get to be on.
I didn't join you guys.
Yeah.
I didn't get to be on it, but I wanted to share my thoughts only because I do think the reason why we jumped on the opportunity to interview Alan Silvestri and Glen Ballard is because the music is the best part.
Now, Justin, at the end of the interview, you asked about what live action movie, and I gotta say, I thought, dude, if Alan Silvestri did the score for a Treasure Planet live action remake, my guy, like that would be perfect. It would be absolutely perfect.
I think the question, though, was more about musicals that haven't been done, though, Nate.
Right.
I don't know if Treasure...
Well, so you're saying
Treasure
because
Island would...
Glen Ballard would come in, maybe make a song about, the robot guy from Treasure. I got to rewatch that. I got to rewatch Treasure Planet. But that is it for this special Behind the Geeks episode. We hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, make sure to subscribe to us right here on YouTube or on the podcast feed, and leave us a wonderful 5-star review. And if you also want to write in to the show and just let us know your thoughts on our interview series that we've got with this Behind the Geeks thing, or if you want to write in and tell us what you thought of the new live action Pinocchio. Justin, can you let them know where we can hear from them?
Why, of course. They can reach us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. Or they can hit us up on Twitter at GeekcentricYT, or hit us up on Instagram at wearegeekcentric.
Very cool. Listen, if you are still here, you're still hanging out with us, I want to let you know that we also have some other wonderful content as well that we've released very recently. We had the chance to, I mean, this is a completely different genre of film, but eventually this movie will also be coming to Disney Plus at some point. It's out in theaters now. I had the opportunity to interview Zach Kreger for Barbarian, and that interview is actually going to be exclusively available on our podcast feed. So definitely go check out our podcast feed. Check out our socials for links. We've got all the links in the description as well, so you can definitely check that out. And we also, we've got a lot of other content here on YouTube as well. We had our recent trip to Fan Expo, where we had the opportunity to interview a bunch of different, geeky creators and brands. So you can check out those interviews. I got to interview the voice of Mater. Speaking of, Disney, I got to interview the voice of Mater for his new series, Cars on the Road. Larry, the cable guy himself, had a chance to sit down with him. And also, we also have our weekly Watch Club series on our podcast that you can check out. If you're a fan of Marvel's She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, we are doing a weekly breakdown, week to week, of our thoughts and theories of each episode. And those episodes go up every single Friday. So, yeah, thank you so much for joining us for this Behind the Geeks episode. Justin, thank you for taking this journey. I will say, you know what? I'm a proud father. You are a real boy.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, you're a real boy now.
Thanks, dude. I appreciate that. Awesome.
And as we say, love ya.
Peace.